This is Tony Hendrick with Painting Spirit, and today's subject is going to be tuning. And I'm picking this today because I could really use it. So, yesterday I talked about attention, and probably would have been better for me to talk about tuning in first. So, yesterday was a bit of a difficult one for me. So I'm going to spend most of the day today just chilling out, tuning back in to myself, really. And that is something that when creating art is also a very helpful thing to have. I just think of the musician on the stage tuning their guitar, their instrument. I'm not sure what that looks like for the artist with a brush, but for me today I just decided to use a landscape. Actually, the one, I think last week I was talking about a reflection in the water. I just was fumbling through my photos this morning to give myself just something to relax with. And I saw that photo that I wasn't able to find last week, so here it is. It's just a pool of water and the reflection of the trees. I'm just going to have fun with it today and see what happens. This might be a kind of a quiet session today, just me painting. Not sure how much I have to say about tuning. Really, with all of these, I'm not sure I have much to say, but I've kind of decided that I'm going to do these talking, so something shows up usually. Maybe I'll just talk about the painting. So, I like to change it up when I'm painting and try different things. These 15-minute sessions kind of limit me in a way to exploring different ways of handling paint, because it's wet on wet, and what I'm using here is a tiny little brush, and that tiny brush, when you're working with wet paint, can kind of get lost in the wetness. Sometimes using a bigger brush like I'm using right now can give me the same kind of detail. Just allowing it to kind of do its own thing with the bristles. You'll see that I do a lot of layering with these paintings, and that is something that really helps to create details in your painting, is that layering. And I've learned to do it wet on wet, like I'm doing here. And it requires kind of a gentle touch with the brush. Just kind of seeing what happens. Just a little bit. You can see there's all kinds of stuff happening in that. Not too much, then it goes away. You can always scrape it back though. That's what I use, the open it up there. I got this camera zoomed in pretty close, so I'm sure you're probably able to see some of that that's happening. Playing with color too. And, feeling around with color too. Some, you don't have to have things exact when you're painting. That first time you lay your brush down in an area, I don't really know how this pool of water is going to come about, but I just start picking colors that, like this area here in the photo that I'm looking at is really light, but I'm kind of using a darker blue because I know when I go back over the top of it with some white, it'll start to pick up that blue and maybe give me some of what I'm looking for. I don't even know if I'm looking for anything right now. I'm just looking to tune in. See what happens. Kind of didn't wash my brushes last night, so I've got a little bit of a limit on my brushes this morning. Got some different blues going on in here. Let's see what happens when I introduce some white to this. I'm going to bring my water over next to me because I'm going to start cleaning my brushes as I'm working. Here's that white. I'm going to use some thick medium too. That thick medium can help you go over top of something and not pick up what's underneath like I just did there. Here I was kind of picking up some of that blue, but using this thicker medium, can lay it on top and it's not going to pick up that blue, and the white can kind of lay on top. And I'll bring that white back on now that I've got, see how that works. So it's just, kind of creating a little bubble area between that blue. And now bringing back some of these smaller, whoops, just lost that smaller brush. Here, we'll get this one. Kind of play around with scraping some of that off. Not sure how this painting will turn out today. If I can actually accomplish something in the 15 minutes working this way, but at least you get an idea of, maybe I need to let go of my need to have a kind of a painting that feels complete to me every time we do these. I said to myself when I'm going to be doing these, I'm going to bring in some yellows here. I just looked at my photo. It's like, that would be nice to bring in some yellows there. Switch around with my brush here. What was I just saying? I don't remember now. I'm really zoning out this morning, which is a good thing for me today. Sometimes it's nice to just chill out. A lot of energy moving around these days. Let's see here what happens when I do that. Bring in some of that medium again, like I was doing in the water. Kind of let me bring in some highlights there. Scrape my brush off. I'm going to bring in that little spatula, see what happens. I don't really remember what it's called, if it's called scumbling or something. I think it's a term that's used to describe the way that Rembrandt painted. Kind of go and scrape stuff out, put stuff back on. He doesn't necessarily work wet on wet. He does, but also, or did. You let the paint dry, and then when you're scraping, you can have that stuff underneath. I got a little bit of that purple showing through there. So you can do this wet on wet thing and still have stuff show up underneath. Let's see here, what do I want with that? I wanted something intense, and that blue just didn't work the way I wanted it. Okay, let's see here. Said yesterday I don't have any green gold on my palette, so I gotta make it myself. That's just basically phthalo, and I forget the yellow that I have, a nice intense, either a cadmium yellow or a Hansa yellow. I like either of those yellows, like the and I'm not even sure, I can't remember now what kind of yellow I put on my palette, but kind of recalling the yellows I used back when I was using oils, which that was cadmium yellow medium, and then Hansa yellow. But I'm using these golden open acrylics, and I kind of forgot what they call theirs. Let's see here. some yellows there. Well, this is actually turning out fairly decent. I kind of want to bring a purple in here. Really put some white and purple loaded on there. See what happens. There's just that little bit of purple kind of, I don't know, just sort of brings another dimension to the painting, I think. Especially right there, that little purple. You know, that's the thing with color. You don't really know until you get it on your palette what it's going to do. I just kind of get a sense when I'm That was a little birch tree. Not bad today. Now I'm just going to play around with, that's another thing. If you can allow some stuff in your painting to, I'm layering on wet, but so I'm kind of being gentle with the brush work, but sometimes adding a different way of handling the paint. Let's clean that brush with water, and then some of that water is going to pick it back up. It's that little bit there. This kind of feels like an intense blue to me right there. My phthalo blue is kind of muddy right now. Oh, that worked. Yeah, that worked. That's kind of what I was looking for right there. And now that I got that, I think I'm going to bring something dark. Let's see here. Got to clean a brush. In order to do that, this thing with clean a brush, if I want to get a really pure dark in there, I have a clean brush, otherwise it'll just turn to a kind of a grayish muddy. Now that I got that dark, I can bring in some blue. That's that, shoot, I forget the name of that blue too. What is the name of this blue? It's just a nice, like a cyan type of a blue. It's really intense. Now let's see here what can happen with bringing in some darks there. Now that looks black, but I've also added some some of that blue I was just mentioning, and maybe I need to clean that brush again. So I want that there to that's the kind of scumbling that I'm talking about that Rembrandt did. Got all that paint, and you kind of get the stuff from underneath the shell and then go back on top with some paints. You can get some really kind of cool little things going on there. It's kind of stuff I've done in the past with my painting, and you're getting a little example of how that happens. And it's really, for me, it's just kind of feeling it and feeling for the light. You know, I forgot to set my timer, so I've gone quite long with this. I was thinking it was quite long. Well, that looks pretty good, so I apologize if you've been hanging in there. Good for you. You've got some patience. Anyway, thanks for helping me tune in today. That was nice. Maybe if you're feeling like you need a little break today, you can join me, because I'm going to take a break, and I'll see you tomorrow.